Miss Gibbs here? Okay, good. You're waving at me. That means you can hear me, right? Thumbs up means that you can hear me. Okay, awesome. All right. Well, it's Miss Gibbs. It's good to see you guys. I hope that your summer has gotten off to a really good start. And I hope that you're having fun and doing some good learning with our summer learning calendar. So thank you guys for tuning in today. You can probably see behind me, I am at the vegetable garden at Huntsville Botanical Gardens. So it's really beautiful out here today. It's really cool to be here. So we have a special guest in just a minute. I'm going to flip camera around and I'll let our special guest start talking to you guys. Her name is Miss Karen Colvin, and she is the STEM specialist who works with a lot of the education programs here at the garden, and she's going to give us a little live lesson from the vegetable garden. Okay, so you guys are going to stay muted as we go through, but one thing that you can do is you can chat still in the chat box. So as we go through and we hear the demonstration from Ms. Colvin, if you have questions, you can type your questions into the chat box. And at the end, if we have some time at the end, I will ask your questions. Okay? I've got Ms. Colvin behind me. I'm going to let her go ahead and get started with you guys.
All right. Well, hi, kiddos. I'm so happy to see you today. So I'm Karen Colvin. I'm the manager of STEM curriculum and programs here at the garden. So if you've come to the garden for a field trip before, or if you've come for any of our STEM camps, that's kind of what I work with. I write all the activities and curriculum and make sure you have a good time. Today, I'm going to show you around our vegetable garden. So this vegetable garden is maintained by the master gardeners of Madison County. So they work in the whole county, including Madison City, Huntsville, everywhere. And they come and they plant all these wonderful vegetables for us and donate them to different food banks to help anybody that might need some extra food. So we're going to talk about how they grow that food, though. And we're going to start out with a little bit of math. Did you know there's math in the garden? We're going to do a little bit of math. So let's walk over and look at the square foot garden. So a lot of people, want to, here in Alabama, our clay is real hard. So a lot of people like to build these raised beds, and you can do a lot of different materials to build a raised bed. And that way you lift your garden up off the ground and fill it with good soil, and you don't have to dig. Have you ever tried to dig at your house or at the school and it's really hard, like clay, and it's really, it's packed in tight, right? So our soil in Alabama is not great for gardening. So we have to do a lot of things to it, like composting and things like that and tilling it up. But one thing you can do if you want to garden quick is make these raised beds. And in order to make sure you're planting everything right in a raised bed, one way to do it is to use square foot gardening. And if you look at this garden, can everybody see this? You'll see that it has this grid system, and it's marked off 12 inches by 12 inches. So each one of these is 1 foot square. And you can buy or make a cool template like this one, and it shows you different colors. So if you have the chart that it comes with, it can tell you in the red, you could plant things close together because there's lots of little red dots, because those things can be planted close together like carrots. Then if they need to be farther apart, maybe use the yellow or blue. And some things need all the space, so they get an orange. So a template like this with instructions on how much space plant needs helps. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. But at your house, you could put in a raised bed and mark out your square foots with strings. This one's done with wood. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You could just use string or anything to mark it out, and then plant the right amount in each square foot. So that's a whole fun way to use math in the garden. And like I said, these raised beds could be built out of anything. If you want to build a raised bed at your house, you can use wood, you could use bricks, you can use anything you have, and you can make it as tall as you want. So yeah, that's one fun thing about being able to garden at your house, is just to build a raised bed. Some people don't have enough room for that, and they might want smaller containers. So we're going to look at small container gardening next. These raised beds are really high that we're walking by. See how they're almost up to my thighs. So if you have things that grow deep, you can still plant them in raised beds. Just make your beds bigger. So over here, we've got containers. And this is where you can have fun and be creative because there are so many different things you could plant in. You don't have to plant into the ground. So if maybe you live in an apartment and you don't have a whole garden, you could just have a pot on your balcony or on your by your front door, and you could grow something, even tomatoes. So you can look, this is a bucket that somebody got from like Lowe's buckets. We have recycle bin over here. We've got a kitty litter bin when they were done with their kitty litter. You can buy these garden bags, but we have all kinds of things. And of course, you could just buy pots too. But we have all kinds of things growing in all sorts of weird containers. This is a tomato. We have some beans. We have some dahlias. So you can do flowers or vegetables. But the most important thing to remember is to think about what a plant needs to survive. So I have some cards to show you, and I think you'll be able to see this. This is an acronym. An acronym is like a word where each letter stands for something, okay? So this word, see if you can tell what it is when we're done. We're gonna start with the letter P, and that's gonna tell us that plants need a place to live. It could be a container, or it could be a garden, like a raised bed, or right into the dirt, whatever you want. So plants need place. L, plants need light. That could be sunshine, or it could be a grow light. Sometimes you might have seen people grow house plants and they put a grow light on them because inside you don't get a lot of sunlight unless you have a sunny window, right? So it needs some kind of light. So we have P-L. Wonder what we're spelling. There's A. Plants need air. Did you know plants breathe? Plants breathe just like we do, but they breathe the opposite. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide. That's a big word. Can you say that? Carbon dioxide. And they breathe out oxygen. We do the opposite. We breathe in oxygen, carbon dioxide. So the plants and people get along great, don't we? Because we can help each other. We need that air to circulate and give us all that we need, our carbon dioxide for the plants and oxygen for the people. P-L-A, I wonder what we're spelling. There's N, nutrients. Do you ever take a vitamin in the morning sometimes? Little gummy vitamin. I used to take Flintstones vitamins when I was little. Or you just eat really good food like fruits and vegetables. The reason we eat those good foods is for nutrients. Nutrients are like, for plants, would be like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are some of the fancy nutrients that plants like. We need nutrients too. So plants have to get their vitamins. So they get nutrients usually from the soil or from compost that we add to the soil. So nutrients are important. All right, we have P-L-A-N-T. What did we just spell? Do you know? T is for thirsty. Everybody, plants and animals, need water. We are thirsty. So plants need water to survive. Some plants need a lot of water, like a water lily grows in a pond. Some plants don't want much water at all, like a cactus growing out in the garden, out in the desert, right? So different plants need different amount of water. So you have to learn how much water your plant needs because they are thirsty. P-L-A-N-T-S. They need soil or a place to live, some kind of growing material. And that helps the roots hold on and the plant not fall over. So sometimes if you've seen plants growing in water, the water is helping them hold up, right? So it needs something to hold them up. But all of our garden plants need soil. So what did we spell? P-L-A-N-T-S. Did you get it right? Plants. Plants. That's what plants need. Very good. All right. So you have learned so far that you can grow things in a raised bed and use square foot gardening. You've learned you can grow things in containers, all kinds of containers. You can have fun with that. It could even be a little container that you put a seed in. But some people just grow things in the ground. So let's go look at some row gardening. You ready?
Guys, as we're moving to the next space, don't forget that you can type your questions too. If you have questions as we're going through, add your questions to the chat and then we'll ask Ms. Colvin at the end, okay?
So this is row gardening. This is the kind of gardening you usually think about. If somebody said, draw a picture of a farmer in his garden, you would probably draw something with little rows of plants growing, right? That's the first thing we think about. That's very traditional gardening. And here we're growing a bunch of onions. You can also grow corn in rows. You might have driven down the road and seen people growing things in rows like soybeans, cotton, corn. Those are the three things we see mostly around our area. So if you've been out riding around, have you seen that? Have you seen things growing in rows? That's what you can do if you have a lot of space. This takes a lot of room, doesn't it? This kind of growing also took somebody tilling up that clay, because we talked about that clay being really hard and compact. So if your soil is too hard, the roots can't get through, and it's like it's stuck and it just dies, and the plants aren't happy, right? Because they need good soil. So we have to amend the soil a lot. That means we till it in and we stir in a lot of good compost. And compost you can make with just any living thing. It could be leftover food scraps you're done with. Instead of throwing them away, you put them in your compost. It could be grass clippings. Maybe when you're pulling weeds, you can even put paper in your compost, like cardboard boxes that Amazon delivers to your house, or leftover school papers that you're done with. You could put those in your compost. As long as it doesn't have plastic on it or anything oily, compost doesn't like that. But if you use those kinds of things and make your own compost, it'll take about a year and it'll turn into soil. And then you can put it in your flower gardens, in your vegetable gardens, and it makes the soil really happy. And then you can plant right into the ground like this. And so you see here we have some onions. I don't know what that is. There's a bee enjoying it. We've got something else growing here. We've got some peas growing over here in rows, and they had to put up a trellis to help hold them up because they climb. So they have peas growing up. But we have all kinds of things growing in rows and containers. And yeah, so let's see if there's anything else I wanted to share with you guys before I take questions. We talked about that. I mentioned the soil, and I didn't talk about another way. If you don't want to grow things in soil, is you can grow things in water. And we talked about like water lilies, but I like to grow things in a system called hydroponics. So that's a big word too. Hydroponics means you grow it in water. And there's a lot of vegetable food scraps that when you're done with, you can put them in water and they'll grow again. If you ever have green, is that still on? I think I'm still there. Yeah. Hold on, let's see. Pause.
Yes.
Are we back?
Nobody accidentally opened a whiteboard or anything, okay? Be
Oops.
careful what you're
That
doing.
was a whiteboard. Were you going to draw me a picture? Maybe we'll do that later. But I was saying hydroponics you can grow in water. So if you have like green onions and your parents sometimes cut the root part off, you can put that root part in water and it'll grow more green onions. Same thing with romaine lettuce. If you buy the romaine and you cut the roots off at the bottom before you eat the good lettuce, you can put that root part in a cup of water and it'll grow more romaine lettuce. Those two work really well. Celery works pretty well too. So think about it whenever you're in the kitchen cooking. If you have leftover vegetable scraps that have a root part, you can probably put it in water and grow some, and that's called hydroponics. So let me see if there's anything else. You will notice here in our garden, we have flowers in our vegetable garden. And flowers are very important. You know, we mentioned the dahlia, and I see some snapdragons. They're important because they bring our pollinators. Because we think about pollinators like bees and butterflies helping our flowers, but you know, most of our vegetables make a flower too, and they need to be pollinated. So our potatoes make a little flower that needs a pollinator, and our Tomatoes make a flower that need a little pollinator. Our beans are going to make little flowers. There's one on this bean right here is a little flower, and they need to be pollinated. And if we plant flowers around the garden, that just helps encourage pollinators to come visit our garden. And while you're here, pollinate the vegetables too. So it's important when you have your vegetable garden to also throw in some flowers, and it makes it prettier too. All right. So I think that's about all I have for you guys. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Let's look and see if we got any questions. Okay, we have several questions.
Awesome.
All right, or at least a couple. Okay, so, well, someone said, how do you do that? But I'm not sure what you were talking about.
Do what?
Parker, you're going to have to tell us what part you were watching when you asked that. How do we do what?
I'm glad
But
to tell you.
it looks like we have Aubrey said, is it hard to plant fruit?
Oh no, fruits are great. And what's fun too is like we were talking about save food scraps from the root to regrow. You can do that with some of your fruits too. An avocado is a fruit. And I love to take my avocado pit and peel it. I soak it in water and peel it, and I regrow avocado trees. So your fruits are easy to grow. The best way to grow most fruits is to just go to the store and buy a plant already started, because it takes a lot of practice to get seeds to come up, believe it or not. So if you really want to be successful, strawberries are super easy and they live forever. I planted about 5 or 6 strawberry plants a couple of years ago, and I'm still getting strawberry plants. They lasted all winter. They didn't freeze, and they just make new strawberries. I'm already eating strawberries this spring from my strawberries that are 2 years old. Same thing with blueberry bushes. You just go ahead and buy a whole bush and plant it, and you'll get blueberries every year from your blueberry bushes. And it's fun when you're just out playing in the yard to stop by and see if there's any strawberries or blueberries to eat. Some fruits grow on a tree though, so I had to plant a plum tree to get my plums. Apples grow on a tree, oranges grow on a tree, persimmons. So it just depends on what kind of fruit you like. You can try. I love trying it. If you mess up, you're just out some seeds. Try growing it from seed. But a lot of times it's hard to get seeds to grow. So don't be discouraged. Keep trying and messing up and trying and messing up until you get it right. Or just go buy the plant and plant it and enjoy your fruit year after year, because they will keep coming back. Good question. I love that you're eating fruit.
All right, let's see if we have any more. Guys, don't forget, we're not unmuting. So if you have a question, you have to click the little speech bubble icon. It looks like a little talking bubble, and that's where you can type your question in or have an adult help you. Well, we don't have any more additional questions, but someone did say that they love onions.
Oh, you know where I like to eat my onions is in salsa. I had some kids in here earlier that were looking at the pepper. Oh, I like to get those peppers and the tomatoes and the onions and some garlic and make my own salsa and put some lime in there. I like salsa. So I like onions too.
Okay, Gabriel and Milana, if you have questions, you have to type your question in. So type your question into the box, and then once we see it, we can answer.
Do you do that? I was trying to figure out what they could have been talking about.
I'm not sure. What we could do maybe, Ms. Colvin, do you want to do your book? And maybe that will give them some time to add some more questions. All right, guys. So Ms. Colvin also has a book that she can read to us that is about gardening. So we're gonna have a little read aloud, but keep adding your questions as we read. So if you have something you want to ask, then add it there. And stay tuned too, because I think after we read, we're also going to hear a little more about all the cool opportunities that you have here at the Botanical Gardens over the summer if you are to come and visit. Okay. All right.
All right, let's see how the lighting is. Our sunlight is behind clouds today, so I hope you can see okay. But this book is called Up in the Garden and Down in the Dirt, and it's one of my favorites. So I'll read it and then I'll show you the picture, okay? Up in the garden, I stand and plan, my hands full of seeds and my head full of dreams. Look at that garden. It's not ready yet. It's just thinking and planning. What could we do? Spring sun shines down to melt the sleepy snow. Wind whistles through last year's plants and mud sucks at my rain boots. It's not quite time yet, Nana says. Down in the dirt, things need to dry out and warm up. What's down there? I ask. I always try to garden too soon, too. You have to wait until the soil is warm enough, or else the seeds won't be happy. So, what's down there? What's in the dirt? Down in the dirt is a whole busy world of earthworms and insects, digging and building and stirring up the soil. They're already working down in the dirt. And that's another thing that helps keep our soil loose so it gets a lot of air. That's one of the things it needs. And all these insects and worms and snails actually help our dirt. Do you see all the cicadas come out in May? They really help the dirt too, believe it or not. People were asking, like, ooh, what are cicadas good for? They come up out of the ground and left all those holes in the ground. That's letting air in our soil. When they all die, they also add nutrients back into our soil. Lots of nitrogen from the dying cicadas when they were finished with their life cycle. So they were all right. They were annoying, but they were all right. Up in the garden, we snap brittle stalks, scoop rusty armfuls, and wheel away weeds for the chickens. While they squabble and scratch, we spread compost over the soil. We talked about that. So all your old plants and things you can throw in the compost. Unless the chickens get them. Do you have chickens at your house? I don't. Down in the dirt, pill bugs chew through last year's leaves. I give a gentle poke. They roll up tight and hide in plated suits of armor. Roly-poly round. We call these roly-polies. Roly-polies help the soil too. Did you know all those bugs and insects are helping? Did you know a roly-poly is closely related to a shrimp? It's a crustacean, it's not an insect. Up in the garden, it's time to plant. I trail a furrow with my finger and sprinkle seeds in a careful row. To swim into the dark. Down in the dirt, a tomato horn rests, waiting for its wings, and the leaves where she'll lay her eggs. That's kind of what the cicadas were doing. They burrow down in the ground and then they come out, just like the tomato hornworm. Up in the garden, carrot plants sprout, pea blossoms bloom, wasps are on the prowl, and honeybees visit, legs loaded with pollen. We talked about that, didn't we? We need lots of pollinators. Pollinators are needed in our vegetable gardens too, not just flowers. I weed and wilt in the sun, so strong, even Nana looks for shade. Down in the dirt, earthworms tunnel deep. I'm jealous of their cool, damp, dark. So they're resting in the heat, but the earthworms down here are still doing their job, eating old dead plants and turning them into good soil. These are the best composters in the world, are earthworms. Up in the garden, rain shower. Nana turns the hose on me. Eee! And look, the robin's starting to lay eggs in the nest. The garden's starting to come out. This is late spring, early summer. I hide behind the cucumber vines, but their leaves can't save me. I shiver and laugh, drenched in Nana's rain. Down in the dirt, water soaks deep. Roots drink it in, and a long-legged spider stilt walks over the streams. Spiders are important in the garden too. And all those roots are soaking up the nutrients and the water. They are thirsty. Up in the garden, there's so much to eat. Ladybugs feast on aphid. Nana crunches green beans. I bite a ripe tomato warm from the sun. Juice dribbles down my chin. Did you know some bugs eat other bugs? And that is good for the garden because the aphids eat our plants. We don't like aphids, but the ladybugs come around and eat the aphids. Yay, ladybugs. So be careful and save your ladybugs. They're eating the bad bugs. Down in the dirt, a robin's beak finds a cricket, a beetle, a grub. Slugs are scrumptious too. Ooh, the robin is eating all those bugs, taking them back to her babies. Up in the garden, we pick cucumbers and zucchini, harvesting into the dark. Bats swoop through the sunflowers, and I pluck June bugs from the basil until it's time for bed. Bats are good pollinators too. You probably don't see many because they come out at night while you're inside asleep. But the bats come out and pollinate some of our plants as well. Down in the dirt, skunks work the night shift. They snuffle and dig and gobble cutworms while I sleep. So the skunks are good for your garden because they're eating some of the worms that will also eat your plants. It's all an ecosystem. Everything's working together. There's natural ways to get rid of pests. Wait on the skunks and the ladybugs. Up in the garden, a praying mantis wakes to hunt mosquitoes. Nana sprays away the aphids and I'm after grasshoppers, ready to swoosh, but boop, there's a praying mantis. They also eat bugs. We like to have a praying mantis in our yard, in our garden. Have you seen some of these insects and animals in your garden? Oh, snap. Someone else is faster. Down in the dirt, a smooth, shining garter snake crunches on supper. Sometimes we see snakes in our garden. Here at the Huntsville Botanical Gardens, we have some water snakes and garters and king snakes, and they're all good for the garden. We get rid of any venomous ones. I don't think we found like one in years, but we have a lot of good snakes in the garden, and they'll eat if we have too many mice or if we have too many bugs. The snakes will eat those, so they have in our garden too. Sometimes people are scared of snakes though, and it's good to be safe. Just look at them from a distance. Up in the garden, the wind grows cool. Pumpkins blush orange and sunflowers bow to September. Fall is coming. Nana ties them together to build a house for reading. You can use your sunflowers to make a house. I use my sunflower stalks when they're done to prop up plants in the garden next year. I save them as stakes. Down in the dirt, an orb weaver spins her web, strand by silken strand. She'll munch on the moths tonight. Most spider webs you see look like that, and those are orb weavers. There's different kinds of spider webs though, but that's one of the prettiest because they make that nice design. If somebody said draw a spider web, that's probably the kind you would draw. Up in the garden, colored leaves litter the squash vines, and we know the cold is coming. Hurry, hurry and harvest. There's enough for neighbors too. They're getting pumpkins and squash in the fall. Down in the dirt, frantic ants gather what we leave behind. They're storing food for the cooler days ahead. What season's coming next? Can you guess? Up in the garden, frost draws lace on the leftover leaves where secret egg sacs hang, waiting for the warm to return. We say goodbye and spread the winter blankets. A lot of insects like butterflies and moths will make their chrysalis, their final chrysalis for the year, and just stay in it the whole winter and not come out until spring. Down in the dirt, beetles burrow, ants scurry home, earthworms curl tight in the soil. Everybody's going to sleep for the winter, hibernating. When Grandpa calls us in for soup, an autumn moon is rising. Up in the garden, dry corn stalks tremble and the wind smells like winter. But the long, ripe days of summer still rest in the garden beds. The ladybugs and bumblebees, earthworms and ants are hunkered down, hiding and biding their time. They're all going to hide away for the winter and wait for spring, dreaming of sunshine and blossoms and sprouts under the bare arms of trees because all the leaves have fallen, and the blanket of snow. We sometimes get snow. A whole new garden sleeps down in the dirt. And that's it. Lots happening year round in the garden. So did that inspire any more questions for me?
Let's see if we've got some questions. We've got some new stuff on here.
All right.
Let's see. All right. We already talked a little bit about, well, okay, we talked about fruit. So the
Mhm.
next question was, is it hard to plant vegetables?
Same thing. You know what I have found? That's actually a good follow-up question because I have found fruits are harder to start from a seed, but vegetables aren't. Vegetables tend to grow pretty easily for me. And like I said, there are parts that you can just regrow from the same vegetable. Like take the ends, the roots off of your lettuce or your onions and start a whole new one. Your garlic will divide again. So sometimes you can use one vegetable to grow more. So it's the same thing. You just have to keep trying and experimenting. And that's my favorite part of gardening is I try, I mess up, and it's like, oh, well, I'll try again. And so you just keep practicing and you keep learning. This year I learned because I got excited like too early in March and wanted to plant a bunch of flower seeds in my yard. It's too early in Alabama, so they didn't grow well. But the ones I waited and planted in May, they're doing wonderful because, like the book said, we have to wait for the soil to warm up. So that's just what you have to do with your fruits and vegetables. It's just practice, try it. It's not expensive. Seeds are very inexpensive. So if you mess up, you didn't lose a lot of money and you learned a good lesson, and you'll become better and better at gardening just by practicing.
Very cool. Well, we kind of already answered this question a little with what you just said, Ms. Colvin, but Audrey asked, what is the best time of year to plant strawberries and blueberries?
When the soil's warm enough. Yeah, it's really important. And you know, if you're going to a garden center, I like Bennett's as a nice one out on Meridianville. If you go to a really good garden center, they'll be able to give you good advice for our area. Or if you come here to the garden, we have a lot of classes where you can learn about gardening. But basically, you want to wait until the soil is warm to plant anything. Some things don't like it too hot. So we have some crops that are better when it is cool. Like lettuce really doesn't like to get hot. So I plant it in the early spring or in the fall. I can even plant lettuce in the fall when it's starting to cool off. Same thing with cilantro. I love to grow cilantro to put in that salsa I was talking about. But once it gets hot, my cilantro will be like, ooh, it's too hot, and it'll wilt back and die. But I can get it in the early part of the year, in the spring and in the fall. So that's a good question because most plants like warm soil and sunshine, but some plants are kind of picky. Again, you just got to experiment and see what works.
Well, we've got all
I
kinds of
like all the happy
wows
faces.
and
Thank you for all the happy faces and thumbs up and hearts. Y'all are sweet.
oh, okay. So we figured out what the how was about. So he said, so about the how do you do that? It was how do you make a raised bed?
Okay, good question. So I've done this with my students before, so I know you can do it. So let's look at this one as an example because this one's super easy. You can go to the store and you can get wood. And this looks like it's probably a 2 by 4, no, probably a 1 by 4. And you can get, this is maybe 10 inches. You can get 10 to 12 inches. Just get whatever size board you want to be around your border. Because look at all these, they're all different sizes, right? So you get whatever you like as far as your size, but you just screw the boards together to make a big rectangle. See how they just put screws on the end and screwed it together. Get your parents' help. Don't go get the screwdriver without permission. But get your parents to help you. I've done this where I taught my kids how to use a drill and how to use a screwdriver, and my students just built all kinds of raised beds for our school. So you can do it. Once you just put this together, and you can use different materials, but once you build it, you just fill it up with your soil and compost. Some people, because this is kind of expensive when you first start to buy much soil. Some people fill it first with a lot of big stuff like old sticks and leaves and debris from the yard to kind of fill in the bottom part and then put soil on top. And all of that stuff you put in it will break down and become soil later. And so it's good for the garden. Just like I said earlier, don't put like plastics or anything oily in it, but you can just fill it first with just sticks and leaves and then put your soil on top and start gardening. That's all there is to it. Building it is easy as long as you have help from your parents with that drill and screwdriver.
All right, let's see if there's any more. Is there something good to keep bugs and weeds away if you have a fence and don't have wild animals in your yard?
Good question. Good question. Because you saw in the book it talks about skunks coming to eat some of the bugs. Um, that is hard. I prefer not to use pesticides or anything in my garden because it might get on my food that I'm going to eat. And so what I do is I try to do a little bit of companion planting is one thing it's called, where you plant a lot of herbs and things around your tomatoes or around your cucumbers. And the smell of those herbs actually keep the bugs away. So that could be something you can check into. Basil is nice to put with your tomatoes. Um, Cilantro keeps bugs away. A lot of herbs the bugs don't like. So if you just mix in herbs with it, the smell helps keep them away. If they're bigger beetles, I just go out every day and just flick them. I annoy them till they leave my plants alone. And you also have to trust that birds will come to your garden and eat some of the bugs. And good bugs will come and eat some of the bad bugs, like the lady aphids. But do everything you can to keep from using any kind of pesticides because that just winds up going in your mouth when you eat your yummy food. And I don't like to do that if I can keep away from poisons in my garden.
Sure. What happens when leaves get in the garden?
They're good for your garden. Leaves are great. I don't rake leaves at my house. I have 5 maple trees and I never rake leaves because when the leaves fall in the garden, that's just extra compost and it's just going right there. I leave them on my grass. When my leaves fall on my lawn, I just leave them for the winter because, we talked about all those bugs in the winter just finding hidey homes to sneak and snuggle into for the winter. They'll sneak into your leaves and your leaves will just be full of insects and creatures just spending the winter there. And then after a few months in the spring, when it's time to mow, you can just mow over them and mulch them. And they keep that nitrogen, they keep that good nutrient right in your soil. So just let your leaves do what they're going to do. They're good for your soil. Good question. A lot of people rake them, put them in a plastic bag, and send them to the landfill. That's terrible for the environment. Don't do that. Just leave them alone. They're great. Good questions.
Good to know. So Gabriel and Milana said, "Is it hard to pick up the carrots?" I'm guessing they mean like, is it hard to pull the carrots out of the
carrot
ground?
up? It can be. Do you want to see some carrots? Let's go look. Look. So we were noticing earlier today that these are carrots growing, but they're not ready yet because you can dig down and you can see this one doesn't have a carrot, but this one has a little bit of a carrot growing. But if you just tug at it, it comes up. I'm going to pull it. You looking? Oh, comes up so easy. Look at that carrot. It just came right up and it's covered in dirt. So we go and wash it off. Look at that wonderful carrot. I'm going to have this for lunch. But we noticed it earlier, so I knew one was growing for you. And now I can just wash that off. Some people like to peel it, like with the vegetable peeler, and then it's good to eat. I'm not going to eat this one because it's dirty. But yeah, that's just, did you see how easy it came up? They're easy to grow. But look, I'm going to leave this part for compost. And I'm just going to take the carrot into the house. So when you're picking carrots, leave the part you're not going to eat and just let it become compost in your garden. And there's my lunch.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. They said, "Oh, it's so cute."
It's a little carrot. I love it.
Right. Well, really good questions, guys. That looks like that might. Oh, someone asked. Sorry, I missed one. Do bugs hibernate?
Yes, they do. They like to hide in the leaf litter. Oops, here comes the lawnmower. Sorry. And lots of children. They like to hide in your leaf litter and hibernate. Sometimes they hibernate in the trees. Sometimes the insects will lay eggs that'll stay in the leaves over winter and they'll come out in the spring. So yeah, bugs hibernate. That's what all those cicadas were doing. They hibernated for 17 years. Or was it 7? It was 7 years, something like that. 14, I don't know.
All
They
right.
hibernated a long time.
All right, guys. Well, good job asking lots of good questions. So, and we've just about reached our time, but before we go, we'll let Miss Colvin tell us a little that you can do here over the summer. And I want to make sure you guys know that in July, we're going to have another video here from the botanical garden. So make sure you're looking at the summer calendar. It'll be linked on the summer calendar. I think we might get to go into the butterfly house.
If you want to go to the butterfly house, we can do that. Put in the comments what you want to see. We could do herb garden, we could do a nature walk, or we could do butterflies. Let me know what you want. Vote in the comments while I'm chatting. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing at the garden besides mowing the grass. We have STEM camps, and I know some of you are already familiar with our field trip, but maybe not our STEM camps. At spring break when you're out of school, at fall break, and even a couple of days in winter break, and all summer, we have camps going on. We have a group of campers over here. We can turn around and see them. Look, they're over there. You see them off in the distance? Those campers are over there learning about compost and gardening, just like you guys. But they're here at the garden. So I hope you'll join us. If you go to our website and look for our STEM camps, you'll see all sorts of themes. We have one coming up called What's Cooking, where we're going to be eating and making lots of good food from the garden. We have one called Make a Splash, where we're going to learn about water all week. We just have so many fun camps. So I hope you'll look at the website and see if you want to do a camp with us. That would be awesome. I'd love to have you out here. You can come say, hey, I saw you on the live stream. Yeah. So what are y'all liking mostly? Butterflies?
I've seen 2 butterflies so far. Butterfly or nature walk.
I wish I could do it all. Come to camp and you can do it all. We do all of this at summer camp.
Yeah, it looks like butterflies winning out for sure.
We'll do butterflies.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, we'll give Miss Colvin a wave before we end our chat for today. And a thank you.
Thanks for spending the morning with me.
Yeah, we had so much fun. So you guys tune in again in July when we have our next chat from the botanical garden. Bye, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.